Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I don't know that everybody's inside yet because we want to try to get the ride on the road as close to 10 o'clock as we can. I want to wish everybody a good morning and welcome to our 4th annual Suicide Awareness Ride. We're gathered here today to, there we go. We're gathered here today to raise awareness of the plague or the scourge of suicide sweeping our state and our nation. The ride is free, but today's donations will help support the work that the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention does here in the state, the Vermont chapter, and also Project Hopner, who is from Heinsberg. And they'll perhaps have some time to say a few words. I do want to thank Wilkins Harley-Davidson for hosting us, and I want to thank and recognize the brothers and sisters from Green Mountain and Freedom chapter of the V-Twin Cruisers Motorcycle Club. Also, brothers and sisters, I don't know if are there sisters from Vacation Land? No. Brothers from Vacation Land V-Twin Cruisers chapter up in Maine. And the other clubs, I know American Legion riders are here today. Not sure if there's other clubs here or not. And also want to thank all of the independent riders that are here this morning. Daryl and I, my wife and I, lost our son Rob to suicide back in November of 2017, November 14th to be exact. Our 3 daughters lost their brother. And I also lost my older brother to suicide in 2007. But today's event is really organized around and focused on saving lives. And I'd like to say that suicide is a huge problem in our state and our country. Vermont is one of the leading causes of death in Vermont. And I just talked to Joe this morning, and I guess there were 142 deaths in 2022. He's got later data than I do. And that's here in the state of Vermont. The state of Vermont is the 18th highest rate of suicide in the nation. 18th. Across the country, there's some 45,000 suicides every year. And my latest data is from 2020. And the data also says that there's about 3 million people per year that consider suicide or that actually attempt it. Who's most at risk? Veterans. 22 veterans per day across the country. Police, fire department, and other first responders. Construction workers. That's where my son fits in. My son had his own construction business. Someone with a history of depression or drug or alcohol addiction, or someone with a history of suicide in their family. But I want you to know that there is hope. And so part of that hope is going to be presented by our next speaker. And our keynote speaker this morning is Ellie Keeler. She is behind me here. She's a licensed mental health therapist. She has worked in the mental health field since 2009, primarily in trauma recovery and prevention. And 4 years ago, she started her own practice of Keeler Counseling. In 2005, Ellie told me she lost her best friend to suicide, and it changed her life direction forever. And Eric is the reason that Ellie is a therapist today. So Ellie, the floor is yours.
Hey guys, thanks Bob. Thanks for having me here today, everyone. hope to deliver information that is effective and useful in a concise way. I know you want to ride. I know that you're here to support this cause as a societal crisis. And if you have any questions for me afterwards, please feel free to ask. So, yes, I'm Allie Keeler. I'm a private provider. I've been doing this for 13, 14 years. I work in schools with families and individuals that struggle with trauma and the factors that are associated to those things. I like what I do, I'm passionate about it, and I was asked here today to talk about the leading cause of death, not only in our country, but globally. It is the second leading cause of death in children 10 to 14. It is the second leading cause of death in adults 24 to 35. It is the fourth leading cause of death in adults that are 35 to 44. I think that sounds like something that's important to talk about. So I'm here today for many reasons. For starters, I'm here today because it's personally and professionally important to me. As Bob mentioned, my friend Eric took his life in 2006. We were 18, 19 years old, and I was angry, confused, and upset. And I decided to take that anger and do something with it, so I'm here today for that reason. I'm also here because in the last 2 decades, from 2000 to 2020, 36% increased rate of suicide in the US. I'm here because that's significant and it's rising. We have lots of information. We know the population it affects, but the rates continue to go up. I'm here today because one person in every 11 minutes will die from suicide, which means that from the time that Bob introduced me to the time you start your ride, I'm estimating at least 6 people will be taken by suicide, and that is devastating. We have to do something about that. So I'm here today for all of those reasons. I'm assuming that many of you are here today because we share in a common tragedy, and I hope that together we can do something about it. So I'll start with things like, what do we know? What information do we know about suicide? Well, we know that 1 in 5 adults struggle with a mental health condition. If I looked around this room and did math, I'm suggesting there's at least 10 to 15 of us in this room that are currently struggling. That's a lot. Out of those adults, 1 of 15 of them will also struggle with substance abuse disorder. Also, white middle-aged men have the highest rate of suicide in the US. They are 4 times more likely than females to commit suicide. It doesn't mean that females aren't concerning in their rates as well, because that's also rising. But men are 50% of this population, but they represent 80% of suicides in our country. That is significant. We know the statistics. We know that rural populations are at risk. We know that occupations such as construction, farming, those folks are at risk. I'm looking at a room. We are the people we're talking to. It is us. And I hope that what I can do today is giving us power individually to do something about something that clearly we're, as a country, not able to attack, despite all of our efforts. So, I'm not here with magical solutions, but I do have a unique perspective that I hope to provide with you that gives you power to do something about it yourself. To leave here with something that is hopeful. So, with all the information that we know mental health. There's terms like suicide, self-harm, we have psychiatric medication, we have depression, anxiety. All of those things are like, oh yeah, that's mental health. We know the facts, we know the statistics, we know the terms. Yet here we are, 36% increase in 20 years and rising. All right, so what do we do about that? Because 94% of adults in the US say that suicide is almost always preventable. So if it's almost always preventable and we know all these facts, what is going on? I don't know that answer, but this is the perspective that I have. I'm wondering if anybody here would let me ask them a question. It's not a trick question. It's going to be, I want your first answer response. Jerry? Yeah, the answer is okay. So I'm going to give a scenario, and I just want you to tell me what would you do next, okay? So, big storm came last night, and a tree falls in front of your garage, blocking all your vehicles. And you're like, this is frustrating, I know I have to take my chainsaw out. chainsaw out. And you're like, I know how to use a chainsaw, I've done it plenty of times, it's not gonna be a big deal, it's annoying. You cut down the tree and whoops, you slipped. And the chainsaw goes, slices through your wrist, slices through your hand. There is evidence of blood, you see bones, and you're like, well, I have to do something about this right now, I can't get this blood to stop. What do you do next? Where do you go?
911.
911. For what?
To get an ambulance there to take me to the hospital.
So the ambulance to take you to the hospital. So you have physical injury evidence, and you're like, I know where to go, because I'm bleeding and I can see my bones. Right? Okay. So you go to the hospital, they tend to your wounds, they tell you how to treat them, they make sure you're okay, and then they say, oh, you're going to come back on this date. People care about you, people are calling, they're sending cards, you're okay, but everybody's checking in on you. You're discharged, and you recognize you have to call your boss because tomorrow you gotta go to work. But your boss says, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're okay. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And there's people creating meal trains for you because they know that you're hurting and you need to be taken care of. There are people that are like, those scars are gonna be way too cool, and you're gonna have them for life. You're gonna talk about this story, you're relieved you're okay, but it's also funny. All right? Why, in this culture, is physical health so acceptable to talk about, but mental health is not? Why, when we're bleeding, we know to go to the hospital, but when we are sad for months, for years, we have chronic pain, we are not sleeping, we are drinking, we are engaging in things that make us feel better temporarily, we're losing our jobs, but we don't consider those things physical, right? So why in our culture, things like pediatric annual check-ins. You have a child, they have to go to the doctor. In fact, if you don't take them, they're gonna call somebody and tell you that you didn't do it. So physical health in this culture is like, well, we're gonna keep an eye on that. But not once does your child get called to go to a mental health check-in. Not once do people say, I don't want to sign your cast with your broken arm. You want to sign that cast, right? You want to get balloons. You want to be there to support. You want to send cards and praise people that are healing and recovering from physical injury. But mental health? We can't take off work because we're sad for 3 days. We aren't talking about it because the stigma suggests that we feel uncomfortable. So my suggestion is, what if we saw mental health and physical health as the same thing? What if broken bones and broken hearts weren't so far apart? What if, instead of waiting an average of 11 years between when your symptoms start and when you actually see someone, that we decide on week 1 that we're gonna do something about it? What if that means when your buddy tells you you're having a hard time that you don't laugh it off and say, suck it up, buttercup, because that's what our culture says is okay? What if we say, that stinks, man, I'm really sorry, what can I do for you? That's uncomfortable. But if they had a broken arm, you would help them. What if we decided that maybe we can't single-handedly reduce suicide rates by ourselves, but that we could look within ourselves and stop being a statistic? Because this room is who you're talking to. When you feel like you haven't slept in days, when you feel like you just don't want to get out, do something different than what you're doing. It means acknowledge it, tend to your wound. You are bleeding internally for days and years, and you're not recognizing that it's like a hospital visit. Please recognize that your physical health and your mental health are one and the same. And encourage your friends to think the same, your children to think the same. I don't have the solutions, but I think that what we're doing isn't working. So within ourselves, if you could change how you think about it, I think we'll make a better impact. I hope you guys have a good ride today. It was an honor to be here. If you see me around and you have questions, please let me know. And I'm going to introduce Terry from the FSAP.
AFSP.
Yes, come on down.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Terry Ladley, and I am the current board chair for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Vermont chapter. I have been volunteering for AFSP for 7 years after losing my 18-year-old nephew 7.5 years ago to suicide. I found my family when I attended my first Out of the Darkness walk in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. My sister lives in Maine, so that was the closest walk to her, and I've never looked back. Professionally, I have worked in mental health for 20 years, so I have a lot of training and background. And actually, training is my love, and I do a lot of volunteering for AFSP, and my job is training people, especially around suicide. So I just wanted to share a couple of more statistics with you guys. Vermont has the highest suicide rate east of the Mississippi River. 1 in 7 middle and high school age children, according to the last youth behavior survey in Vermont, have had a plan to take their life in the last 12 months. 1 in 5 in the last 30 days. That's scary, right? That's a fifth of our kiddos are thinking about this. So what is the answer? We don't have the answers, but what are we doing is important. And I think that what we're doing is breaking down stigma. We've spent so much time and energy focused on training our mental health professionals, but not everybody goes to a mental health professional because of stigma of going to a mental health professional. So what AFSP has done is we raise funds for research because it's important to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. So research drives everything that we do, and we provide trainings. We don't provide trainings to mental health professionals. We do, but this is more community trainings because we want to get people where they're struggling at points of access, and it's not going to your therapist or your emergency room. People get missed. So we do trainings such as Talk Saves Lives, Safe Talk, It's Real, Teen Mental Health, and even the best, this is my favorite, we do Gizmo's Possum Guide to Mental Health with the little kids. Preschool to 5th grade to teach them what their mental health is and to teach them how to take care of their mental health. So the answer is right here in this room of how we prevent suicide as we all become more comfortable talking about it. We learn from the research, we share the programming, and that's why we fundraise in Vermont. You'll see the Out of the Darkness walks. Today's our first one in Rutland, next week's in Newport, and then on the 14th is Burlington, 14th of October, and the 30th is Central Vermont. So we raise that money to put back into Vermont with programs so we can deliver, so we can educate, so we can get our community okay talking about mental health and make you comfortable asking your friend, are you having a hard day? Can I help you with something? So we need to catch people at points of access, and that is our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers, not necessarily the mental and physical health professionals. So the funds that you're raising today go back into AFSP. We are an entirely volunteer-based program. There's 1 paid staff in Vermont, and there's an army of volunteers that get trained to go out and deliver these trainings, to come and speak at events like today. And we do tabling, we do outreaching, we train support group facilitators, so people that have lost someone to suicide, we send them to training so they can facilitate support groups for loss survivors. So I want to just take a moment, thank you Bob for having me speak, and to thank all of you for taking the time this morning to invest in this very important cause. We can do this together. We don't have all the answers and we don't know how, but I just want you to be aware all the funds raised today are going to come right back into Vermont to support each other in mental health and suicide awareness. So thank you all.
Thank you, Barry. I do have one other person I'd like to invite up here, Joe Hopner, to say a little bit about your organization.
Life lives to keep experiencing what it's like to be alive. Life lives for the thrill of living and the rush brought by each morning. Life lives because it is the life that is worth living for. Poem by Paul Hopner. Paul died by suicide at the age of 17 on October 8th, 2018. We are Joe and Sue Hopner, his parents. We did not know that Paul struggled. We did not know that suicide was an option. Did he ask for help? Did we just not hear? In response, we developed Project Hopner. We try to open the doors to difficult conversations. One word on a shirt might just spark a conversation. A conversation to check in with your friends, check in with your family, check in on our hearts and our heads, to be genuine and honest about how we're feeling. The person next to you may seem together, strong, but inside they may be crumbling. Today we made shirts that had courage on the front. Courage was originally chosen by a group of young adults in Heinsberg. They wanted to express the following: it takes courage to stand up for what you believe is right. It takes courage to ask for help. It takes courage to make a change.
5 minutes.
And it takes courage to listen. After all, life is worth living. If you guys didn't get a shirt, come see me. We'll get your name and your address. We'll send you one. Thank you.